From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
The weather is cooperating so far for sweet potato planters in Louisiana.
It's been cool weather, nice weather.
Well, not so nice for farmers in the Midwest fighting drought. But can healthy soil help save the crop?
So we can infiltrate a 1-inch rainfall in 6 seconds.
We continue to help you flip your soil as a ray of hope emerges on the horizon for chances of rain.
At least there is a promise as we head into reproduction for corn and soybeans of getting some 1 to 3 inch rainfall totals.
The latest outlook right now on AgDay. Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Despite recent scattered rains, the heart of the Corn Belt continuing to face drought. And the area of concern now stretches from Missouri to Michigan. A new topsoil moisture map just released from USDA tells the story. Right now, 46% of the country is classified as short to very short when it comes to topsoil moisture. And look at Missouri, Illinois, and Michigan, well above 85% short to very short. It's worth noting before this latest survey was completed, some rain did fall in those areas over the weekend and earlier this week, which USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey says may help.
That may have brought some improvement, especially across Michigan, but as you move further south, little, if any, relief across Illinois and Missouri.
But there is a bit of good news for the Corn Belt looking ahead at the forecast. Rippey says that Omega Block weather pattern that has dominated the Midwest for almost 2 months is starting to show signs of weakness. He says that should allow some moisture to break through and work its way across the Midwest.
Now, as we move through the next 5 days, it looks like the best opportunity for drought easing rainfall will occur generally across the southern part of the Corn Belt. So a band along an axis stretching from the central Great Plains into the Ohio Valley. That general area, which does include some of our driest areas in northern Missouri and Illinois, could see as much as 1 to 3 inches of rain.
Rippey adds that normal rainfall on a weekly basis in the Midwest for this time of year usually ranges from 1 to 3 inches per week. So anything that falls short of that means producers are falling further behind in keeping up with crop moisture demands. Another issue right now, air quality. Wildfires in Canada are continuing to leave a haze over the U.S. The smoke clearly in the air at a dairy farm in Johnson Creek, Wisconsin, and 2.5 hours south at this farm in Manteno, Illinois. The wildfire's haze has even reached across the Atlantic to the European coast. The Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Center says crews are working on 485 active wildfires in the country, with at least 257 fires described as out of control. So when could we see the wind shift again when it comes to all of this smoke? Meteorologist Matt Engelbrecht has a look.
Yeah, Clint, that's been, of course, a big question the last couple of days regarding the wildfire smoke. The problem is we're getting it from both coasts of Canada, both on the east and the west part of Canada, which means that smoke, anything that draws the air down south, is going to impact the United States. So we got the big plume, a blanket of smoke impacting the east coast into our Thursday afternoon, also a little bit into our Friday. You can see how it starts to hug the coast with that next system moving in. And then I turn your attention back over towards the Dakota, specifically North Dakota. This smoke is actually coming from fires back up here to the north and to the west. So anytime we get a trough digging in and across the United States, that's going to draw in some of that wildfire smoke. Go ahead, take a look at your screen here. Doug sent this one in. And if you're looking at it here in Iowa, this is coming in out of Iowa, asking yourself, Doug, why would you send that in? Here's another look at the impact that dry weather is having on crops right now. He's sharing this picture. He says he planted these beans right before Memorial Day weekend. He says it was dry as a bone when he planted them, and he's surprised any of them came up. But he says there's more than a month later. They're still coming up. I'll have more on your forecast coming up.
Flip Your Soil on AgDay is brought to you by Economics, farming's go-to information resource. Get your questions answered at nutrient-economics.com.
This week, we're looking at how you can improve your yields by flipping your soil to something healthier. So do healthy soils make a difference in a drought year? Michelle Rook says absolutely.
The drought has continued to expand and intensify this season, with 64% of corn acres and 57% of soybean acres now under some level of drought. And it's adverse seasons just like this one where healthier soils set themselves apart from the rest of the pack. During periods of heat and drought stress, farmers using conservation tillage and soil health practices like planting cover crops say they see real resiliency in their crops.
On cotton, if you plant a cover crop and you're needing the rain in July and it comes a few days late, where you've had a cover crop and you have good soil health, it can fare a lot better for those 3 or 4 days while you're waiting on that rain.
Cover crops aid the water holding capacity of their soils, and the roots provide channels for rain to get down deep into the subsoil so it's available during a drought. That's why they've been planting a wide variety for several years.
We'll use cereal rye, then on some farms we'll even use wheat as a cover crop, and then clover and tillage radish.
Soils with higher organic matter also have better water holding capacity, which helps plants hold on longer in times of stress.
26,000 gallons of water can be held by 1% organic matter. So on my farm here, I've got more than 5% organic matter. In just 6 inches of my soil, I can hold well over 100,000 gallons of water. With my 5% organic matter holding more than 20,000 gallons each, that's why on our farm, we're so much more resilient against drought. When we get rainfall, we infiltrate it into the soil. We have good organic matter to hold on to that water for later on in the summertime when we actually need it.
Water infiltration is another attribute of healthy soils, and Horace says their soil structure acts like a sponge to quickly move rain into the subsoil for longer-term storage.
But on average, soils can only infiltrate ½ an inch per hour. On this farm behind me, we can infiltrate 4 inches of rainfall in under 5 minutes. So we can infiltrate a 1-inch rainfall in 6 seconds.
And Horace says no matter what the annual precip is on your farm, the key is how much rain you actually get into the soil for the crop to use now and later. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Now, the EPA says it plans to revise the Waters of the U.S. rule by September 1st. It follows a Supreme Court ruling in May that restricted the federal government's regulatory scope over certain bodies of water, while the agency has not provided details on how it will regulate wetlands until September. The Biden administration's previous WOTUS definition extended protections to almost all streams and wetlands nationwide. A new survey of ag economists suggests falling farm income and high input costs are likely to weigh on profits through 2024. Now, this comes from the Ag Economist Monthly Monitor. It's a new joint effort between the University of Missouri and Farm Journal. Researchers anonymously survey nearly 50 agricultural economists from across the country to gauge their economic expectations and forecasts for the future. In June, the survey found economists expect the financial health of U.S. ag to trend lower over the next 12 months. Farm income is expected to fall as well and be near the 5-year average in 2024. Crop prices, they're expected to fall in 2023 and 2024. But when it comes to final yields for this year, there were big differences in opinion.
The average yield estimate on the corn side from this survey was a little more than 178 bushels an acre, with the downside of 175 in terms of the low end of that. Likewise on soybeans, right at about 51 bushels per acre, below where USDA would currently see both corn and soybean yields. I will say those are going to change quickly as we look at weather and what's occurred since this survey would have gone out roughly a week ago now.
Now, Brown says high production expenses are expected to be the biggest obstacle for farmers in 2023, according to the survey. Now, on the livestock side of things, beef cow numbers are forecast to continue to decline this year. More rain in the forecast led to more selling in the grain markets. We'll get details on that coming up next. And later, southern growers sow the beginnings of a Thanksgiving feast as sweet potatoes go in the ground. We'll check in on the crop today in the country. Forecasters continue to call for increasing rain chances in the Midwest, and that sent grain markets tumbling on Wednesday. Is this the start of a new downward trend? Michelle Rook has more in Markets Now.
Welcome to Market Analysis. Chuck Shelby, Risk Management Commodities, joining us. And Chuck, let's talk about the grain trade because we've been in this volatile weather market. You do have some producers that are uncertain about what to do for marketing because they're not sure if they're going to get a crop. So what's your advice?
It's been extremely difficult for those that are in the really dry areas to know what to do. I mean, we've had a price rally, but they were so uncertain about, what production they were going to have that they maybe sold a little bit of cash, but one answer was to go to the put options. We've had some producers we work with that have purchased put options. Another idea I believe that Eastern Corn Belt producers should consider is what's the basis going to be? It looks like Illinois, a major state, has got some really big problems. So I believe in the Eastern Corn Belt going forward, if the weather keeps this crop to the smaller side, that we're going to be able to have some stronger basis in the coming fall and winter. So we've been encouraging our producers to maybe look at hedge derives or put options and leave the cash market alone because of basis and just their uncertainty about what their yield's going to be.
Yeah, what do you think about yield? Because there's so much speculation out there with this drop in crop ratings about how much smaller this crop is going to be and what it's going to mean for prices.
There's certainly been some of the crop that has been damaged that's not going to be repairable no matter how much it rains. Some of the lighter soils, they just don't have the water holding capacity. There's nutrient deficiencies that are caused by such dry soil conditions. One of the saving graces has been it hasn't been particularly hot, but as we move forward, I think some of the better quality soils can recover if we start getting consistent rains, but we're going to have week after week rain throughout the month of July to be able to see some of these better soils have anywhere near close to a normal yield. So the next 30 days are going to be critical as far as where we end up. Right now, we'll see if we get this first rain and go from there.
All right, lots for the market to digest here yet going forward. Thanks for joining us, Chuck Shelby, Risk Management Commodities, and that is Markets Now.
AgDay is brought to you by EndZone from Farm Shop MFG, which allows you to rehydrate your soybeans from 10 to 13%. On a 20,000 bushel bin, that's an extra semi-load added to your bottom line. Order your EndZone fan control now for as low as $2,900 while supplies last.
Yeah, Clinton, he was asking about the wind, when the winds were going to change around for the wildfire smoke in the future. Well, here's a look at the overall wind gust forecast going through our Thursday and into our Friday. We got a broad swirl where there is a low pressure system continuing to develop. So counterclockwise flow around that, which is starting to pick the winds up into Texas and then also into Missouri. Now, the wind gust forecast keeps things pretty calm. It's when we start to get these individual thunderstorms working from the west to the east that we get the outflow boundaries or the outflow wind right along them. So in terms of extreme wind, it's going to come in pockets across the United States. Unfortunately, that's also where we're going to get the best chance of rain in the United States. So where these thunderstorms, where the complex would develop, you get the outflow boundary, but also some heavier downpours. This is not a big system across the United States because we already have a big system dominating the United States, and that's a ridge of high pressure. Expect ridge riders to ride up and over the ridge and back down to the south and east the next couple of days. As the center of the ridge or the high pressure moves to the east, so will the focus of the showers and storms. And the best place for the storms to follow is going to be in between this circle up here and this one right there. So you're looking at parts of South Dakota and back into Iowa, Illinois, and off to the east. Again, that's the jet stream coming up on Friday. Into 4th of July, holiday, both Monday and Tuesday, that ridge starts to break down. A smaller kind of shortwave trough that tries to develop in across the United States, and that's when we may see our next rain chance coming through the United States. Sunday, Monday, a little bit into Tuesday with that setup. Otherwise, the precipitation estimate going through Texas, Oklahoma, and most of this is going to be rounding out around that ridge, that circle that we talked about, up and over, not necessarily through. And that heat is going to be on for those locations. Let's go ahead over to Missouri. Mostly cloudy, high around 97 degrees, low of 71. Libby, Montana, mostly sunny, high of 88, low of 61. And I'll talk about, let's go Wayne, sunny and windy, 94 degrees with a high low of 84.
Cattle feeders are still turning a profit despite the increased feed cost. We'll have details on that next. And later, the sweet success of planting season as these Louisiana farmers plant this year's crop of sweet potatoes in the country.
Registration is open for the 2023 Pro Farmer Crop Tour, August 21st through the 24th. Attend one of our nightly meetings or join online as we gain insight on the 2023 growing season. Visit profarmercroptour.com/register to select the stop nearest you.
Cattle feeders still finding profits amid a recent softening of prices. The latest Sterling Beef Profit Tracker says average feedlot profits were near $417 per head at the end of last week. That's a decline of $21 per head. Beef packers found profits of $182 per head. That's up $10 from the previous week and up $6 from last year. Now, cattle sold last week carried a total feed cost of $586 per head, up about $14 from the previous week and 20% higher than a year ago. Talk about a pile of manure. A Montana man has been sentenced for his involvement in a nearly $9 million cow manure Ponzi scheme. The U.S. Department of Justice says 66-year-old Ray Brewer of Montana was sentenced to 6 years and 9 months in prison. Now, according to court records from March 2014 to December of 2019, Brewer stole more than $8.7 million from investors. Now, he claimed to be building anaerobic digesters at dairies in several California counties as well as in Idaho. Investors were promised 66% of all net profits as well as tax incentives from renewable energy credits. Brewer taking investors on tours of the dairies where he said he was going to build the digesters and sent dairy owners forged lease agreements. He even sent fake pictures like this one of the digesters under construction. But prosecutors say Brewer spent the investors' money on himself, buying 2 10-acre plus plots of land, a 3,700 square foot custom home, and new pickup trucks. They say once Brewer's investors figured out the scam and got civil judgments against him, he then moved to Montana and assumed a new identity. Once arrested, he told police they had the wrong man, claiming to be in the Navy, telling police how he once saved several soldiers during a fire by blocking the flames with his body so they could escape. He has since admitted those were lies too. Well, if you want real sweet potatoes at Thanksgiving, those need to be growing right now. We'll visit Louisiana, where farmers say the season is really underway in the country.
AgDay is brought to you by Lamar's Toy Store, the largest and most diversified farm toy store in the U.S. They have new and old and do restorations and customizations too. You need to see it to believe it. Visit lamarstoystore.com or call us at 712-546-4305.
In the Country on AgDay is brought to you by Pivot Bio. What if you had the nitrogen you need already on seed? Pivot Bio is the first company to apply nitrogen on seed. The nitrogen you need, now on seed, from Pivot Bio. Learn more at pivotbio.com.
Once they got started, Louisiana sweet potato farmers made quick work of planting this year's crop. LSU Ag Center reporter Craig Gautreaux has a report from Northeast Louisiana.
Sweet potato slips have been going into the ground very quickly in fields across Louisiana. Ideal planting conditions the past 2 weeks have encouraged farmers to get the crop planted.
It's been cool weather, nice weather. The plants hadn't had a survivability problem so far. You know, there's good moisture in the field, so I think the crop will just speed along pretty good unless we hit an extreme hot, dry period.
Most of the sweet potato acreage in the state is in the northeast section, but there is some acreage located in the central part. The key factor is soil type.
Here, we're looking at the field, it's kind of a sandy soil. In West Carroll, it's a silt loam, so it's, as long as it's sandy silt loam, nothing with a lot of clay in it.
Most of Louisiana's potatoes wind up in the processing market, but some do go to the fresh market. Farmers growing for the processing market prefer larger potatoes.
The processing contracts, you grow in tonnage, so sometimes they leave the potatoes out in the field longer to get larger size because they're not going into the fresh market.
While sweet potatoes are far from being the biggest contributor to Louisiana's agricultural economy, they do play a big role in the rural areas where they are grown.
I think when you have put value added, it's about $90 million to the state of Louisiana, and those few locations that do have it, it plays a significant role in the local economy.
Sistrunk expects Louisiana's acreage to be about 6,000 acres, which is a slight decrease from last year. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gotro reporting.
All right, thanks, Craig, and that's all the time we have this morning. Sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Cliff Griffiths. Have a great day.